We open the show with prayers for Boston and heavy hearts. We would like to let you know this is not how we would do a normal show. But there were two blasts approximately 12 seconds apart, exploding near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. The aftermath: 3 people are dead, among them an 8-year-old boy, and upwards of 140 more were injured. The explosions happened just before 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Boylston Street, where thousands of runners were completing the race and onlookers were cheering them on. Commissioner Ed Davis said no suspect is in custody, but many people are being questioned. The Boston Marathon is forever changed. Stephen A. Smith joins us from Las Vegas. Skip, let me start with you. What is your reaction?
Stephen A. Smith, my friend, you and I spoke last night about this, and I know going into the show today, you had some misgiving, some trepidation about doing a quote-unquote sports debate show in the wake of this tragedy that we all had to live with and try to cope with last night. And I told you that what we do in the world of sports doesn't mean a whole lot, but every once in a while, maybe we can provide just a little bit of a break, maybe a little bit of escape from the relentless reality of tragedy. And we went back and forth about it, and you said you still just couldn't quite get your heart into it. I'm having the same problem today. In a few minutes, we're going to try to talk just a little bit of sports, and it won't be that easy for us. But I think we both know there are those out there in the audience who've always embraced sports as a great escape from their troubles, however small or large. And today, I'm hoping that you and I together can kind of unite in spirit and try to ease back into, a little later in the show, talking some sports. How do you feel at this moment?
Well, I think that you've described my feelings accurately. Obviously, I'm a bit reluctant to be here today in light of what transpired. First things first, my heart, my deep felt condolences goes out to, family members and, everybody who has suffered and has been a part of this horrific tragedy firsthand, as well as secondhand, thirdhand. I mean, forgive me. When I saw the footage of what transpired yesterday, it was horrific to say the least. And obviously you hear that an 8-year-old child has been killed, that, so many are in critical condition. So many have been injured, over 150 injured, 17 in critical condition, at least 3 dead. It just breaks your heart. And obviously when you experience something or you see something like that and that people just 2 hours away from Bristol, Connecticut, I might add, but it doesn't matter where they are in this country or in this world. Obviously, it resonates. And when it happens on American soil, it definitely hits home. We didn't hear, I know we heard our president speak, and we heard the White House alluded to this being an act of terrorism. Certainly, a lot of people are adopting that mentality. And in this day and age, we have no choice. But at the same time, it harkens me back to 2001 and the immediate aftermath of 9/11, how I'm a native New Yorker and the city of New York just rallied together. The nation as a whole came together. And if there's something to take from anything this tragic, this catastrophic, is the fact that America, the greatest country in the world as far as most of us, if not all of us, are concerned, we rally together and we come together as one. And if there's ever a time to do that, it's absolutely right now. And obviously sports, far considered and long considered a microcosm of society in all the positive ways, to be quite honest with you. On a day like today, we can use sports to try to facilitate bringing people together, not necessarily taking their minds off of that because we'd be unsuccessful in doing so in that regard. But certainly, just reminding everybody and putting things in its proper perspective that we're just talking about sports here, that there are real life issues taking place right before our very eyes. And more importantly, when that happens, we all come together as one because we're Americans and we're very patriotic in our thinking for the most part. And no matter what adverse circumstances come in our face, we step up and we handle the challenge and we respond to all challenges that come our way in a way that we know how to. And that's what we'll do today and beyond.
I appreciate that very much. Now let's go a little bigger picture. You and I have spent our careers covering sports events. I know you said it took you back to 2001, that tragedy that was in your hometown, home city. Yesterday took me back all the way to 1991. You remember Desert Storm. You well remember that Super Bowl that your Giants won, Super Bowl 25, in the wake of that or in the midst of that. The Giants-Buffalo Super Bowl, wide right, 20-19. I attended that Super Bowl as I went to many, many Super Bowls, and that one with high trepidation, with anxiety, with dare I say, fear, because we all feared that maybe for the first time ever, we were a target of real terrorism. It was the first reality where it hit home to me that as we went to Tampa, to that stadium that the Bucs play in, we all feared that even in the press box, we were under siege. We were a terrorist target. Now, we don't know for sure this was a terrorist act, even though they saw the authorities saying they are treating it as a terrorist act. But I think we've all long feared that America's hallowed sports events could be targets of terrorism. Let me tell you briefly why this one hit home hardest to me yesterday. I have run the Boston Marathon. It has a big place in my heart. It's a hallowed sports event to me, Stephen A. Even though it's not what you would call a professional sports event, just a handful of those competing are competing as professionals. But as you know, it is a celebration of and a test of the human body and spirit and will. And it happens on a hallowed day in the state of Massachusetts, on Patriots' Day, in which they celebrate there the opening battles of a Revolutionary War that gained us our freedom, the battles of Concord, Lexington. And on that day, 26.2 miles are run. Yesterday, those 26.2 were dedicated to the 26 victims at Sandy Hook. So it was even a more special day. And it hit home hardest to me because one of the most hallowed places for me in sports is the finish line of the Boston Marathon. And as those gathered there were there to celebrate the people that they were cheering on, whether they knew them or not, at that finish line, more than 4 hours into a long, hard race, you know what ensued. Carnage ensued. So it hit me hard, Stephen A., that a hallowed sports event, maybe a pretty vulnerable sports event because, as you know, it's staged outside. It's a little harder to police. Got hit, and it makes me sick that a sanctity got violated, if you know what I mean. A place that I held in the highest esteem got violated by potentially a terrorist act. And I know you too have your thoughts about sports events being sort of hallowed places, sanctuaries of sports, and now another barrier has fallen.
Well, I get where you're coming from, but I'm going to be a bit more optimistic from the standpoint that I think you stand tall. I think that, I mean, I'm not somebody that walks around waving a red, white, and blue flag, but let me tell you something. There's no place else I'd rather be from. I can tell you that much. I'm a proud patriot. I love America. I love this nation. And I love the people in it. Black, white, doesn't matter. Especially during times like this, it's incredibly important that we all come together and we recognize the importance of our patriotism, of us being who we are, recognizing that there are some people out there, whether domestic or abroad, that want to attack and violate and literally shred our way of life. And so when you're cognizant of that, you have to be aware of it to the point where you're not willing to bend or break. It's incredibly important that we recognize that the liberties that have been fought for, folks have died for. There are liberties that we should never even contemplate surrendering. And so whether it was after 9/11, whether it was after the Oklahoma City bombings back in the 90s, whether it was what transpired yesterday at the marathon, the reality of the situation is that once again we're being called upon to stand tall and, more importantly, stand together. And more importantly than even that, recognizing that we don't need to whine and moan about some of the things we customarily complain about. Suddenly going through airport security and having to, just be labored with that shouldn't be that big of a deal. When you go into an arena and they're checking you or security seems to be a bit invasive, maybe we should appreciate it instead of complaining about it the way that we do, because my goodness, it's taking up a few extra minutes of our time. Our law enforcement officials, we should have more of an appreciation for them. The list goes on and on. It takes a time. It calls upon for a time to reflect and to really not only appreciate the nation that we're in, but the people that we're a part of. Everybody's got a job to do. And ultimately what it comes down to is to preserving our rights, our way of life, and everything that comes with it. And whatever comes along with that, so be it. Because when you have adversity and when you have opponents out there who are willing to do anything they can to shred the very foundation and fabric of what we stand for, the only resolution is to stand up and to be willing to say, no way, that's not going to happen on our watch. We're going to stand tall and we're going to stand together. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're obligated to do. And that is what we will do, because it's just the way we are.
I'm glad you said that. I also want to mention a tweet that I read last night from Will Millbrooks, the third baseman of the Red Sox. Even though he's a transplanted Texan, he tweeted, "Wrong city to mess with." So just as America stands tall and proud and strong, stiff upper lip, that city is one, to me, that I love and respect. And you don't mess with Boston. And
Remember, I'm a native New Yorker, and we're not known for liking Bostonians.
No.
They're the enemy. So, no. We love them today, because let me tell you something right now. Whatever vitriol we may have thought we had for them was based on respect.
Sure.
Whether it's the Patriots, it's the Boston Celtics, it's the Boston Bruins, it's the Red Sox, it doesn't matter. It's a fantastic sports town with a lot of fantastic people who do a great job of representing what this nation is all about. So our hearts go out to them today, and we're with them and we stand tall with them, because, all of us, but especially New Yorkers, obviously can relate to some degree to what they're going through today.
And, it's interesting. Bottom line to this conversation, Stephen A., there's a part of me that hates to give in to this on the public airwaves, that hates to show our wounds publicly, because if in fact this is an act of terrorism, I don't want the terrorist to have the satisfaction that you got us. And I like what you just said, because as wounded as we all are for the fallen in Boston, I want us to go on and be strong here too. And that's why I was more prone last night to say, well, Stephen A., we still got to do what we do for the people who do care about what we do, because we have to show the potential terrorist. Now, we're not going to fall into self-pity or hysteria or rampant paranoia. America's going to stand tall. Boston's going to stand tall and proud and strong.
And Steve, to add with what you said, stands tall, stand together, and appreciate life. Perhaps our president said it best when addressing the nation. He said, quote, "Boston is a tough and resilient town. So are its people. I am supremely confident that Bostonians will pull together, take care of each other, and move forward as one proud city. And as they do, the American people will be with them every single step of the way." We'll have more First Take after the break.